Remarrying after 60. 7. Truths you must know before saying, I do again. Can love still bloom after 60? That's the question that stirs in so many hearts. Maybe you've buried a spouse you once thought you'd spend forever with. Maybe you've walked through the fire of divorce and felt the sting of promises broken. Or maybe you've spent years on your own, telling yourself the season for romance is behind you. And yet, here you are, wondering, is it possible? Could I really open my heart again? I want to tell you something I've learned after many decades on this earth. Love does not belong only to the young. Love belongs to the living. And as long as your heart is still beating, it still has room to grow, to give, and to receive. But the truth is, love after 60 is not the same as love at 20. It's different, deeper, more cautious, yes, but also more intentional. At this age, you don't chase after butterflies. You seek roots, safety, understanding. You long for someone who will sit with you in the quiet, who will laugh with you about the old days, and who will walk with you through whatever years are left. Now I know the doubts. You've heard them whispered at family gatherings. Isn't it too late for them? You've heard friends joke, at that age, why bother? But let me ask you this. Is companionship ever a waste? Is joy ever too late? Is the sound of laughter beside you somehow less sweet just because your hair is silver? No, my friend. Love in later years is not about proving the world wrong. It's about proving to yourself that your soul still longs for connection, and that longing is a holy thing. But let's be honest. Saying I do after 60 is not the same as it was the first time. The stakes are different. You've lived through enough storms to know what can go wrong. You've seen how trust can be broken, how money can become a battle, how families can complicate what should be simple. At this stage, love requires more wisdom, more courage, and more honesty than it ever has before. This is not about youthful dreams, it's about mature truths. And that's why we're here. Before you walk down that aisle, before you say yes to a second chance, there are truths you must face. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. Because if you step into this new chapter with open eyes and a ready heart, remarriage after 60 can be one of the richest blessings of your life. I'm not here to sell you a fairy tale. I'm here to share what time and experience have taught me, what I've seen in the lives of many who dared to love again. These are not theories. They are living lessons, tested by age and refined by the years. Some of them may surprise you, some may challenge you, but all of them are given with one purpose, so that you can walk into love again with peace, courage, and joy. So, before you say, I do again, let's walk together through 7 truths, 7 pillars of wisdom that will guide your steps. This journey is not just about marriage, it's about dignity, hope, and the courage to open your heart even when the world tells you it's safer to close it. And if you're willing to listen, to reflect, and to embrace these truths, then perhaps, just perhaps, the best chapter of your love story is still ahead of you. Part 1. Love after 60 is different, not lesser. When we were young, love often arrived like a thunderstorm. Sudden, wild, unpredictable. The heart raced, the hands shook, and we mistook intensity for destiny. But after 60, love wears a different face. It no longer shouts. It whispers. It does not rush. It lingers. And that's not weakness, it's wisdom. Love in later years is steady, not frantic. It isn't about proving yourself or showing the world how much you've made it. At this stage, you don't need a partner to complete you. You need a companion who will walk beside you. Someone who understands that silence can be as precious as conversation. That a simple shared meal can mean more than an expensive dinner. That holding a hand during a doctor's visit carries more weight than 1,000 roses. Many people fear that love after 60 is somehow a lesser version of what came before. But the truth is, it's not lesser at all. It's richer. It's love without the illusions of youth. It's not about chasing the perfect picture. It's about finding the perfect piece. The beauty of late love lies in its clarity. You know what matters and what doesn't. You no longer waste years on shallow games or pointless battles. Instead, you treasure time, laughter, and presence. I've met couples who married in their 70s, even 80s, and they often say the same thing. I wish I had known this kind of love earlier. They don't mean they wish they'd met their partner earlier. They mean they wish they had understood earlier that love is not about fireworks, but about firewood. Fireworks dazzle for a moment and then vanish. Firewood burns slow, steady, warming you through the long night. That is love after 60. A hearth, not a spark. So if you're wondering whether your heart is still capable, hear me now. It is. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The body may age, but the soul does not retire from love. If anything, your heart is stronger now, seasoned by all it has endured. And in that strength lies the gift of loving not recklessly, but faithfully. Part 2. Healing old wounds before building new bonds. But here is the hard truth. Before you can embrace new love, you must face the shadows of the old. At 60 and beyond, most of us don't come to marriage with a blank slate. We carry memories, some sweet, some bitter. We carry scars. And those scars, if left unattended, can bleed into the new. Perhaps you lost a spouse, and grief still lingers in the quiet hours of the night. Perhaps you went through a divorce, and betrayal left its mark on your trust. Or maybe you've spent decades alone, convincing yourself you were fine, only to discover a loneliness you no longer wish to carry. Whatever your past, it matters. Because unhealed wounds do not vanish just because you say, "I do" again. I've seen it happen. Someone rushes into remarriage hoping it will erase the pain of the past. But pain does not disappear when you cover it. It seeps through. A new partner cannot heal what only you have the power to confront. If your heart still wrestles with anger, guilt, or grief, take time to tend to it. Talk it out, pray it out, cry it out, but don't drag it, unsorted, into the arms of someone new. That doesn't mean you must be flawless before you remarry. None of us are. It means you must be honest with yourself and with the one you love. If you carry grief, say so. If you carry fears, admit them. If you need patience, ask for it. Because in this season of life, love built on honesty will always outlast love built on pretense. Think of it this way. A gardener does not plant new flowers in soil filled with weeds. They clear the ground, tend the earth, and only then lay fresh seed. In the same way, you must tend to your heart's soil before planting a new bond. Love deserves a foundation free of the roots that choke growth. And let me give you hope. Healing is possible at any age. I've watched men in their 70s learn forgiveness for the first time. I've seen women in their 60s finally let go of the guilt they carried for decades. Age does not close the door on healing. It makes it more urgent, more essential, because the years ahead are too precious to waste carrying yesterday's weight. So before you step forward into new vows, ask yourself, have I made peace with my past? If the answer is no, then pause. Do the work. For when you heal, your heart is no longer divided. And when you give yourself to someone new, you can give them all of you, not just the fragments left over after sorrow. Part 3. Blending families with grace and patience. One of the greatest joys of remarriage after 60 is finding companionship again. But one of the greatest challenges is realizing that marriage at this stage is never just between two people. It is between two histories, two families, and often two sets of children and grandchildren who already have their rhythms, loyalties, and memories. When you marry at 20, families blend slowly. You grow together, build traditions, and share a fresh beginning. But when you marry at 60, the family picture is already painted, and you're stepping into it with your own brush. Some children may welcome you warmly, grateful their parent has found love again. Others may hesitate, worried that a new spouse means betrayal of the old, or perhaps fearing loss of inheritance, identity, or attention. And here's the truth. Both reactions are natural. You cannot expect your grown children or grandchildren to embrace your new marriage instantly. Their acceptance comes with time, and time must be paired with patience. Love at this stage is not only a bond between husband and wife, it is a ripple that touches every person connected to you. I once knew a man who remarried at 70. His adult daughter stopped speaking to him for 2 years, convinced he was replacing her mother, but he did not push, nor did he argue. Instead, he kept showing up in love, sending her birthday cards, attending his grandson's games, speaking kindly about her mother's memory. Slowly, she realized he was not replacing anyone. He was simply choosing not to be alone. Eventually, she softened, and today they all gather at the same table, laughter flowing once again. That's the secret to blending families after 60. Grace. Grace for those who misunderstand. Grace for those who resist. Grace for yourself when things get messy. You cannot force hearts to open, but you can live in such a way that makes opening easier. And let us not forget communication. Too often, silence breeds suspicion. Be honest with your family. Tell them what this marriage means to you, not as a replacement, not as a betrayal, but as a new chapter. Let them see your vulnerability, your longing not to be lonely in your later years. Honesty disarms fear. And sometimes children just need to hear it. This person will never take your mother's place. This person will never replace your father. But they are here to walk with me, and I hope you'll walk with us too. In the end, family blending at this age is not about demanding respect. It's about earning trust. And trust grows not from speeches, but from consistency. Show up, be kind, remain patient, and in time, most hearts will bend toward love. Part 4. Financial wisdom matters more than ever. When we are young, love often blinds us to practical matters. But after 60, you know better. You've seen what happens when money becomes a battlefield. You've heard the stories. Second marriages crumbling not because of lack of affection, but because of financial secrecy or misunderstanding. At this stage in life, money is not just about lifestyle. It is about security. You may have a pension, savings, a home you worked decades to earn. You may have children who will inherit from you. You may have medical needs that require careful planning. All of this cannot be ignored when you say, "I do" again. Some people feel it's unromantic to talk about finances before marriage. But I tell you this, nothing protects romance more than clarity. Secrets poison trust, but transparency builds it. Sit down and have the hard conversations. What debts exist? What assets? What obligations to children or former spouses? Will accounts be joined or kept separate? These conversations may feel uncomfortable, but they are acts of love. They say, "I respect you enough to be honest. I trust you enough to be open." I once counseled a couple in their late 60s. They married quickly, swept up in joy, and avoided the money talk. Within a year, she discovered his debts, and he discovered her hidden medical expenses. What could have been resolved with honesty became a war of resentment. Eventually, love eroded, not because their hearts failed, but because their planning did. And so, let me give you wisdom. Approach finances not as a burden, but as part of your vows. Love at 60 is not about building an empire. It's about protecting peace. The greatest gift you can give one another is security, the assurance that tomorrow will not be clouded by preventable turmoil. Think of money not as cold numbers, but as a map. It guides how you will travel together in your later years, whether you can visit grandchildren freely, whether you can take that trip you dreamed of, whether you can sleep at night without fear of debt. Financial wisdom is not the enemy of love. It is the guardrail that keeps love safe on the winding roads ahead. So do not shy away. Have the conversation. Make the plan. Write the will. Establish clarity. Because when the money is settled, the heart is free to focus on what matters most: companionship, joy, and peace in the years that remain. Part 5. Health care and facing the future together. When you are 20 or 30, you say, "in sickness and in health," and hardly pause to think about what that means. Illness seems far away. a shadow too distant to frighten you. But when you are 60 and beyond, those words take on a weight you can feel in your bones. You know now what sickness looks like. You've watched loved ones age, maybe cared for a spouse or parent, maybe even faced your own battles with disease. So when you step into remarriage in this season of life, health and care are not footnotes, they are central chapters. To marry again is not only to say, I will share my joys with you. It is to say, I will face decline with you if it comes. I will sit with you in the waiting room. I will remember your pills when you forget. I will push your wheelchair if your legs no longer carry you. This is not the fairy tale many imagine, but it is the truest love story of all. Let us be honest, the years ahead will not always be easy. Age does not bow to romance. There may be surgeries, there may be limitations, there may be the slow quieting of abilities once taken for granted. And yet, in these trials, love finds its greatest expression. When someone chooses you at 60 or 70, they are not choosing only the version of you that laughs and travels. They are choosing the version of you that may someday need help rising from a chair. That choice is sacred, but with that sacred choice comes responsibility. Before you say, I do, you must ask hard questions together. How will we face health challenges? What expectations do we have if one of us becomes a caregiver? Are we prepared to support each other through the unknowns of aging? These conversations may feel uncomfortable, but they are acts of mercy. Because when the day of need arrives, clarity brings peace. I have seen love at its most radiant in hospital rooms and quiet bedrooms where one spouse tends the other. I have watched a man in his late 70s learn to cook and clean for the first time in his life because his wife's hands grew too weak. I have seen a woman in her 60s guide her husband through the fog of memory loss with patience that could only come from devotion. These stories are not tragic. They are holy. They show that love is not measured by how many roses are bought, but by how faithfully we hold each other in the dark. So, as you consider remarriage after 60, do not turn away from the truth of health. Face it together, plan for it together, and walk into it with courage. For when two people look honestly at the years ahead and still choose each other, that choice is not weakness. It is the purest form of strength. Part 6. Shared purpose keeps love alive. By the time you reach 60, you have seen how quickly time slips away. You've lived through decades of working, raising children, chasing responsibilities, and perhaps even losing yourself in the busyness of it all. Now, as you enter this new season, marriage is not just about filling time. It is about filling time with purpose. Love thrives on meaning. Without it, even the strongest affection can grow stagnant. A couple may share a house, a bed, even meals, but if they do not share a vision, they drift like ships without an anchor. That is why remarriage after 60 requires not just companionship, but shared purpose. Purpose can take many shapes. For some, it is travel, seeing the world while your legs still carry you, tasting new foods, walking ancient streets, and making memories together. For others, it is service, volunteering at a church, mentoring younger couples, or giving back to the community that gave so much to you. For others still, it is family, pouring love into grandchildren, telling stories that will outlive you, becoming the roots from which the next generation draws strength. What matters is not what you choose, but that you choose it together, because when you walk in the same direction, love grows deeper. And when storms come, and they will, you will not face them standing still. You will face them moving, hand in hand, towards something bigger than yourselves. I once met a couple who remarried in their mid-60s. Both had been widowed. At first, their families questioned why they needed marriage at all. Wasn't companionship enough? But the couple said something I will never forget. We are not just here to sit in rocking chairs and wait for the end. We want to live, and we want to live with purpose. Together they began leading small retreats for older adults, sharing their journey of grief, healing, and rediscovered love. Their days were not about avoiding loneliness, they were about shining a light for others, and that light kept their own marriage vibrant. So I ask you, What dream will you share? What purpose will you write together in the chapters still ahead? For love after 60 is not merely about holding each other. It is about holding on to something that gives your togetherness meaning. Without a shared purpose, time can grow heavy. With it, time becomes a gift. And this is the truth. A marriage built on shared purpose does not simply survive, it flourishes. It gives you both a reason to rise in the morning, a reason to smile through the aches, a reason to keep choosing one another day after day. Love without purpose may fade, but love with purpose, it endures. Part 7. Choosing love without fear. There comes a point in life when fear becomes louder than hope. After 60, fear whispers in the heart more often than we admit. What if this doesn't last? What if I lose them too soon? What if my family doesn't understand? What if I'm making a mistake? These questions can echo until they drown out the very thing you long for most, love. But let me tell you something I've learned watching men and women step bravely into marriage again later in life. Fear will always be there, but it doesn't have to decide for you. Fear asks, what if you get hurt? But love asks, what if you are healed? Fear says, what if you lose again? But love says, what if you gain the sweetest years of your life? Fear warns, you're too old for this. Love counters, your heart is still young enough to feel joy. Remarrying after 60 is not about pretending you have endless time ahead. It's about choosing to make the time you do have beautiful. It's about saying, I will not let the clock on the wall dictate the warmth in my soul. It is an act of defiance against loneliness, an act of courage against the shadows of the past. I've seen couples who risked their hearts in their later years and discovered laughter they thought was lost forever. I've seen women who dared to love again and found themselves glowing with a light their children hadn't seen since their youth. I've seen men, once hardened by grief, become tender again when a new hand rested in theirs. These are not fairy tales. They are living testaments that love has no expiration date. Yes, remarriage after 60 comes with risks, but every chapter of life does. The greater tragedy is not losing love, but refusing to try for it. For the truth is this, to die without ever having opened your heart again is a greater loss than to risk and lose. And so, if love comes knocking, do not hide behind the door. Open it. Welcome it. For love is not just for the young, it is for the brave, and courage knows no age. Conclusion. A blessing for those who dare to love again. And so, my friend, we have walked through 7 truths together. We have seen that love after 60 is different, not lesser. It is steady, deep, and rich with wisdom. We have faced the necessity of healing old wounds before building new bonds. We have acknowledged the challenge of blending families with patience and grace. We have embraced the importance of financial honesty, the reality of health and care, the beauty of shared purpose, and finally, the courage to choose love without fear. These are not lessons pulled from books. They are truths carved by time, by tears, by laughter, by watching lives unfold in all their messiness and glory. They are truths I offer you not as rules, but as lanterns for your path. For remarriage after 60 is not a step backward into youth, it is a step forward into maturity, into a chapter written with both tenderness and clarity. If you stand at the edge of this decision, hesitant, let me speak plainly. Love is always worth the risk. Yes, it will ask much of you. Yes, it will require honesty, patience, and courage. But what is the alternative? To sit alone in silence, pretending your heart no longer longs for companionship. That is not wisdom. That is surrender. And you, who have lived through so much, deserve more than surrender. I bless you with this thought. The story of your life is not finished. Your best laughter may still be ahead. Your most meaningful days may still be waiting. Love is not behind you. It is beside you, reaching out its hand, asking only that you trust again. Do not let fear rob you of joy. Do not let age convince you that your time is past. As long as you draw breath, your heart is capable of beating in harmony with another. So if love knocks, answer. If joy calls, listen. And if a hand reaches toward yours, trembling but sincere, take it. Walk forward together into whatever years remain. For the truth is simple, my friend. The best chapter may still be unwritten. And perhaps, just perhaps, remarriage after 60 is the gift that will write it.